Hello, Commander, and welcome back to the Radio Sidewinder Talk Show. I'm Commander Felix Jefferson, and as usual, I'm joined by...
I'm Commander Steven Atronach, and we have a guest today.
I'm Commander Arbitration.
And just so you know, this is not a full episode of the talk show. This is actually going to be an out-of-universe episode where we're going to talk about the recent developments with Children of Raxxla and the members of their group who have been using, a database to log players' IP addresses and tie them to different accounts.
Yeah, and this is important that we can talk about this out of universe, because this isn't just something that affects the in-universe. This is something that affects the game overall and the people playing the game, not just, just inside. So, Commander Arbitration, you actually started this post up on Reddit, correct?
Yeah, we put this post together just because we felt it was important for the community at large to be aware that this is a possibility, and if this group has thought of it, they're not the only group that's thought of it, and probably it's not the only group implementing it. So it's just something you need to be aware of when you're playing a game like this that's an MMO, that's peer-to-peer, that your IP address does directly connect to the other party. And if you're concerned about that, you need to take steps to hide that IP address. Now, the thing is, unfortunately, the game's design enables this to a degree, because normally, even if it was a peer-to-peer game, and you can open your IP log and see all the IPs that are connected to you, but if you're connected to 20 or 30 different IPs, it's going to be a little difficult to narrow down whose IP is whose. The game's new journal logs just package it and gift wrap it for you. It gives you the IP address and the unique commander identifier that it belongs to. So, we felt that this was an important enough I wouldn't say vulnerability, but design flaw that we needed to, bring it to everybody's attention, and that there are people using it, for kind of shady purposes, but it could be used for pretty nefarious purposes in the wrong hands.
Right, yeah.
Now, I assume that, this is mainly an issue for people with multiple accounts, but at the same time, is this something that could be dealt with by using something like a VPN? Like on your end until it gets fixed. Obviously
you could use a VPN. That the only thing with VPNs is that it's going to affect your connectivity pretty badly.
Mm-hmm.
However, it affects commanders with multiple accounts, because basically what the Children of Raxxla did was they were using this ability to kind of root out spies in their midst and see which commanders were using multiple accounts by correlating the IP addresses that were being used. And if there's the same IP address being used on different accounts, then it's the same person. So the thing is, the game's journal logs are doing this. An IP address by itself usually won't lead to a complete breach of your personal security. It's one piece of a larger puzzle. If you wanted to find out who someone was, say if you wanted to do use this for a really nefarious purpose, it's pretty difficult to find someone's exact identity from just an IP address. It's one part. It will help you localize that person on the globe, or maybe tie that IP address to different games using different or that same username to different games, and you could. But it enables the building of a profile.
Some might say that using multiple accounts in order to, say, spy on a group would be an exploit as well. But of course, these people have paid for those accounts. And I'm not saying that this is a good way to go about it, but is there a way to try to find out if there's a spy like that in your midst without using IP addresses that you can harvest and things?
Good counterintelligence?
I'm just asking. I'm just trying to think of
there's really there's if you have somebody who's pretending to be somebody else using another account, it's going to be pretty hard to narrow it down. But if you make sure you trust the right people, that wouldn't happen, I suppose. But that's just a risk. I mean, that's what real governments deal with all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the in-game thing. I'm just curious.
Now, I understand that the desire to have that security. We even as a minor faction, we're not as into some deep stuff as maybe Children of Raxxla is, but we have a need for some, a certain level of security, and we just make sure that the gatekeepers are trusted people. The whole reason this whole situation blew up was because some people that are part of our group, they, during the Salome event and before that, decided on their own time that they wanted to play the part of spy, to be the bad guy, and unravel the plans that the Children of Raxxla had for the Salome event. Drew Wagar himself asked other factions to oppose him without contacting the people that were trying to support him, because he wanted it to be a fun event with intrigue and a good opposition. And so our guys decided to play that part, but they decided to play that part. It wasn't like us asking them to do that. We weren't involved. It's just their gameplay on the side, but they are involved with us as well, but it wasn't our action. Anyway, so it all started it was all in game though. It was all in game. Everything, the intrigue, the spying, all that stuff was in game or in Discord. It led to Salome, unfortunately, meeting her end, although the other 3 VIPs made it, so the whole thing was still a success. Regardless, we ended up receiving some heat on our BGS. We didn't really know who it was, but we kind of suspected it might be them in retaliation against our commanders that are part of our group, that, were acting against them during that event. That was confirmed when 3 Children of Raxxla, high-ranking intelligence members popped up in open play, killed our guy, and then they got chased out. And then it escalated. They called their allies, we called our allies. The code blockaded their system. Even some guys from SDC came in and wanted to get another round at core. And so we had some support. They had some support. There was some there was some PvP that went on. It was pretty great. First round, SDC killed 21 commanders versus 3 deaths. Wow. Radio Sidewinder Wing had a good round. It was like 15-1 for us. I mean, it was, and we had been, ramping up for this war. There had been some back and forth with them, and it was turning out to be kind of a fun thing that we were going to do. Like, we were going to go to war. It was going to be fun. We're going to, fight them, and they're going to fight us, and we're going to, mess with their BGS, and they're going to mess with ours, and it was going to be a lot of fun.
Because it was still all in game at this point.
Yeah, it was all in game.
At least to our knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, we're not mad about them attacking us and, getting into PvP and blockades and all that shit. Like, that's great. That's what we want to play the game for. We want to test our space lasers against someone else's space lasers. So that's the whole point. It was going to be a lot of fun. Everyone was getting pumped up. The whole crew was kind of energized. Like, oh yeah, we're going to do this.
Yeah, because I may be wrong, but I don't think we've really had any sort of actual player versus player war, right?
No, this is the first time. And, it was kind of like a World War I Archduke Ferdinand kind of thing. Like, one guy did some shit, and then, that led to this and that and this and that, and then ended up this big escalation with, like, everybody's getting on a side, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was the first time that we've ever had that in, the 2.5 years of the station's existence. Anyway, it was turning out to be a pretty fun war. People were mining salt on both sides, and, whatever. It was great. But then one of our commanders got that message in open, and saying that we have your IP addresses, we know your Inara accounts, and we're going to share them with your allies. I mean, that was kind of where everybody took a big step back, because doing espionage on Inara, I mean, Inara helps you. It helps you. Yeah. Inara helps locate, duplicate accounts, or Discord or whatever, that's still kind of in game. But then when you start talking about IP addresses and sharing them with other people, that's where a line gets crossed, I think.
I mean, this is something like you said, Inara and Discord, we all use these to help enhance our in-game gameplay. I mean, these aren't things that when we're talking about it on the radio show, we always say like a Galnet page or something like that. These are things that could easily exist in universe that we use while we're playing,
right?
Just to keep up profiles and things like that. But I mean, the IP address is directly tied to your real life situation, and despite the fact that maybe they can't do anything super dangerous with your personal life with your IP address, it does take away any real subtlety you can have with having multiple accounts or spying on people.
Right. It's a way that you can get around that problem of having to actually run counterintelligence and trust people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like being a psychic or something,
Right. Yeah.
It's just a way to deal with that problem, but not in an in-universe way, and not in a way that's fair to the people who are just playing the game.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a breach of, it's, and at least in my opinion, it's kind of like infringing on privacy. I mean, yeah, you can't really do too much with an IP address.
And those IP addresses are public.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
right.
you can't
and they're
do
usually
too much with
dynamically
it,
assigned. I mean, usually your IP address is going to change from time to time as it's renewed and, release,
right.
renew, and, it's not going to be the same all the time.
Yeah.
At this, and yeah, we know. I mean, like, there's like over freaking half of the comments on that subreddit thing where, you can't really, this is stupid, you can't do anything with an IP address.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there are still some things you could, again, like we said, it's a piece of a larger puzzle.
And
it helps to build a profile. And if somebody is really salty about something and they really want to find you, that's one piece that they're going to need to do that.
It's kind of like also, I mean, if you think about it, people saying the IP address isn't really that dangerous to have. That's true. But I mean, like, for instance, if I had my credit card and someone just had the expiration date and maybe like a few of the numbers, I still wouldn't want them knowing that and trying to use that
exactly.
to profile things. They could...
Or one of the arguments I saw was the worst thing that they could do is launch a DDoS attack on you. It's like,
yeah, but that's still
pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
That sounds
that's pretty bad.
goddamn bad to me. I mean, because then what you could do is, okay, say you're being attacked by somebody and you know their IP, you could just DDoS them so they disconnect.
Right. And then report them for
combat logging, and you don't die.
Yeah.
I mean, but just DDoSing somebody so they can't use the internet, I mean, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, like, what if they work from home or something, or like they need the internet? Like, that's still pretty bad.
Right. I mean, a lot of people that are in the Elite Dangerous world, are like independent contractors. They work from home. That's why they have a lot of time to play Elite. But that's still a clear violation of somebody's, rights to be on the internet. I mean, that's an attack, and just to minimize it, I think it's just victim blaming.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's strange that they would really try victim blaming in this case, because they're the ones, looking at people's IP addresses. They're the one using that information to find alternate accounts. They're the ones who are using that information and threatening to release that information publicly as well.
Right.
And you're just like, hey, we caught you. And they're like, oh, well, it's your fault. That's kind of dumb.
Yeah, and despite how you feel about whether it's a big deal or not, Frontier has emphatically stated that this is way against the terms of service and the end user license agreement.
Mm-hmm.
It is far and beyond a clear violation, and people that are doing this, they're found, will be dealt with. So, if you think that this is okay, it's not okay. And so, despite your opinion on how vulnerable an IP address really makes you, as we've all three of us said, it by itself is not enough. But, Frontiers put their foot down and said, no, it's not okay.
Exactly. I mean, and at that point, when Frontier themselves step in and say, no, that's wrong, I mean, that's just end of discussion. I mean, that's
it. Yeah.
And Frontier is usually very tacit on these kind of matters.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you have people complaining about gankers, or people
combat
complaining
loggers,
around combat
whatever.
loggers and things like that, and they're like, well, that happens. Like there's nothing. They're not breaking any rules. And they'll kind of let it go. But in this case, they're like, no, this is definitely something that is against the terms of service. This is definitely something that even we consider cheating. Then, yeah.
And they were like really quick to respond. If I remember correctly, I think it was only like an hour or so after the post was originally made that one of the managers came on and made their comment. But I mean, like you said, once they had their say, I mean, it's pretty much game over then, because it's their game and they have, their own terms of service and everything. So
right. They have the authority to control how you use their game.
Right.
And
this is not about us like retaliating for the war. Like, we were jazzed up about it. We were excited to get in a fight. Win or lose, it was going to be a lot of fun. It was not about like putting them out there. I mean, it wasn't it's their actions, and they're just there, and you can look at them and make the decision that this is not something that's okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, this wasn't a retaliatory thing that we did, but I think it's important that people know that people in this group, now some people in the group have disavowed these actions, but there's people in this group that are doing this. So, take that for what it's worth. Mm-hmm. And just know that there's probably other groups doing it as well. So until it's harder to tie IP addresses and accounts, unless Frontier does something where they're not logging it for you and gift wrapping it, there's still ways you could do this. You could still do some hard work and do it. Until they stop gift wrapping it for everybody, if you're really worried about this, you should take actions to protect your IP address.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And, especially if you have two accounts, just make sure you're careful on who you engage. But at this point, I think with FDev taking action, hopefully this will be sorted pretty quickly, and it won't be something we have to continuously worry about as we're playing.
Yeah.
As you said, we just wanted to kind of deconstruct this topic a little bit, just because it is something that's a little bit more serious than your average skirmish between the Empire and the Federation and all that stuff. It starts to get a little bit too real, and so we just wanted to talk about it unfettered by immersion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this won't be aired, right, Commander Arbitration? This is just going to be its own...
This will be an on-demand piece on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes. So
we want to make sure we don't break the immersion of, commanders listening to this as they're playing Elite Dangerous, but this way, as well as the other things that have been put out about it, there will be a place to come and listen to it and kind of get a layout of what's going on and how it affects them personally. So, well, thank you definitely for coming on and talking to us about this and giving us a heads up on everything that's going on and how it's working exactly.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so as usual, if you are interested, please join the Radio Sidewinder crew and join us next week for the next episode of the talk show. The actual next episode of the talk show, not out of universe bit.
Yes, my immersion's been ruined for like a week now. I can't stand it. My goodness. All right, see you next time, Commander. This is Steven Atronach signing off.
As Commander Arbitration signing off.
And I'm Commander Felix Jefferson signing off. Fly safe, Commander. And also stay safe out there with this group doing what they're doing.